have to be uncompromisingly consistent, which means sometimes you are going to say no to something that in the short term might feel like, a good opportunity. But I think you just have to be so true to the brand and what you want it to represent and be consistent, because consumers have to know what they can count on you for.
Welcome to episode 224 of the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, Gym Sales. Gym Sales gives your sales team the tools they need to capture, nurture, and convert new members. Visit gymsales.net to find out more. Hi everyone, I hope you've had a sensational week. My special guest for today's episode is Kari Saitowitz. Kari is the founder and CEO of Fhitting Room, and she oversees 3 fitting room studios in New York City. Prior to creating Fhitting Room, Kari was a marketing executive at Pepsi, where she focused on building equity for powerhouse brands and launching new product innovations. Now, during today's episode with Kari, you're going to hear about the process that she went through to develop the Fhitting Room brand, why they chose to use the color green in the logo and what it means. Kari tells us about the evolution of the brand since they originally launched. We talk about how a strong brand can build trust for consumers, and we discuss how to build brand presence within a community. In all honesty, I could not possibly love this interview more. Kari shares such valuable insights into what it takes to build a brand. It is absolute gold. So listen closely, because I promise you there is something in here for all of us to learn from. So we're about to transition into my chat with Kari, but first I want to thank our podcast partner, Gym Sales. Gym Sales allows you to plan, implement, and monitor a proactive sales strategy that is automated and uniform. You can give your sales team the tools they need to capture, nurture, and convert new members, making it easier than ever before to grow your member base. Visit gymsales.net to find out more. We're kicking things off a little bit differently to usual this week, because I wanted to give you a bit of background on how we came to find this week's guest. And it might give you a bit of insight into just how important it is to us that we get the very best people to come on the show. So for a long time now, I had heard stories about Fhitting Room and what a great workout it was. And in particular, JT from Active Management is a huge fan. And so when we were in the US last year, I had a chance to do my first ever Fhitting Room class. The instructor was Dennis, and he was absolutely phenomenal. So a shout out to Dennis if you're listening to the show today. And the workout was a great HIIT style class. There was lots of variety, and it was a really good solid sweat session. But apart from the workout, what really stood out to me was the Fhitting Room branding. It was the logo, it was the fit out of the facility, the color scheme, and above all, it was the consistency in the brand message from the moment that you walked in the door. So given the Fhitting Room ticked so many boxes from a consumer perspective, we made it our mission to reach out to the business founder, Kari, to see if we could get her on the show. Now, that task, I've got to tell you, is not always easy, but thanks to the awesome Lauren Fundos, who you guys might remember from episode 202, Lauren kindly connected us via email, and hey presto, a few months later, here we are. So with Kari's extensive background in brand architecture and brand equity, we dive straight into the conversation this week, where I have just asked Kari to walk us through the process that she went through to develop the Fhitting Room brand. Here's what she had to say.
As you mentioned, my background is in marketing and branding, and I went through a somewhat traditional process that I had been through before when I was working for a large corporation. So when I was thinking about how to even name the business, I sat down with a pen and paper and I brainstormed pages and pages worth of associations, playing like a word association game of all of the things that I would want the brand to represent. And some of those things were very literal, such as high intensity interval training or strength training, fitness. And other things were more fanciful or emotional, things like optimism and positivity and confidence. And what I was looking for in the brand name was coming up with a name that sounded like it could be a destination, that also had some sort of a literal translation that would help people decode what the business was, and then also something that felt emotional. So Fhitting Room, literally, as most people know it, is a place where we go to change when we think about it in the shopping context. So I loved that that same idea could apply here, being a studio or a fitness studio where you could go to change, whether you're looking for a physical transformation or an emotional transformation, but nonetheless, fitness is something that changes all of us in one way or another. So I loved that. We obviously do spell the word fitting incorrectly for anybody who sees it on paper. And the idea behind we have an H after the F, was to incorporate this high intensity training into the name of the brand. So that was meant to be the literal part. And obviously it doesn't scream high intensity training, but anybody who stops and pauses or asks what the H is for would very quickly find out why it's there. And of course it sounds like a destination because it's a room, someplace you can physically go. So from a naming perspective, those are all things that went into the brand. In addition to that, we do have a logo, which is a scribble kettlebell, and part of went into the design of the kettlebell logo was wanting something that felt somewhat fanciful, whimsical, light, not taking ourselves too seriously. It is a super serious workout and it's a real workout, but we don't want people to be intimidated by the workout. High intensity training sounds very intimidating already. So when you think about scribble and, who scribbles? Children scribble, and it's accessible and it's friendly and it's movement and it's fluid. And so it just had a lot of great associations. So while it does tie back to a kettlebell, it had a whole lot of other associations that went along with it.
I'm going to put a copy of your logo in the show notes so everyone can jump on and have a look if they haven't seen it already. And of course, we'll put links to the website and your social pages. The other element that I'm really interested in is, of course, the color that you chose, because that incredible green is it pops, whether you're in the studio or whether you see someone walking down the street with a Fhitting Room t-shirt on, or your social media pages. Talk to us about how you came to choose that color specifically.
Yes, I'm so glad you asked about that. Okay, so we wanted the brand to be unisex. So one, we wanted a color that would be completely gender neutral. So that was one thing that was very important. I looked at other boutique fitness studios and I looked to see if there were colors that were already really owned by boutique fitness brands. And so certainly SoulCycle has made a huge mark with yellow, and Physique 57 and Flywheel were using a blue, like a turquoise blue. Barry's has the red room, but a lot of their logo is orange. And so there's, a handful of colors that are truly gender neutral, and tried having my graphic designers use many of the different colors that were, that fell into a unisex, non-gender specific category to create the logo. And green, I just immediately fell in love with the green. And to me, green it's not just a color. It represents growth and vitality and life and all of these extremely positive associations that you would want your brand to represent, and that all of us on our own fitness journeys, it ties in with, being natural. And now, everything is about going green, and, we wrap it around encouraging people to use refillable water bottles and life and, just all of these great positive associations with the color green. So as soon as I saw it on paper, it sort of immediately clicked for me.
Yeah, well, I've got to say, as I mentioned right at the very beginning, just seeing that consistency and it just makes the Fitting Room brand so recognizable in any space that you're in. Now, you've obviously come from a background in marketing and branding, but many of our fitness professionals out there are starting off and trying to create a business or trying to create a brand for the very first time without necessarily having that experience in most cases like you have had. I'm interested to know, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves when it comes to getting the right color, getting the right logo, getting the right name for our business. Since you actually launched, has that been the logo and the brand? Has that been consistent, or did you tweak it all after launch, or has that been consistent since day one?
We have definitely evolved. The color has stayed the same. Fitting Room has mostly stayed the same. We dropped the word "the" from our logo a few years back. So our logo used to say "The Fitting Room," and we dropped "the." And we actually changed the font on our Fitting Room logo about 3 years ago. So our original logo was a bit more designed, the actual logo lockup. And to be honest, what we found over time was we didn't use it all that much on our other merchandise and in our communications in logo form, because it was such a highly designed element. It was hard to use unless it was just like a standalone logo. And so we had another font that was our secondary font that we used on our website and for much of our communication. And many of our merchandise designs were using the secondary font. And so we actually did a design exploration of our logo using that font, and we just have a very small design element in the logo now, which is between the two T's. There's a bit of a diagonal that splits the two T's, but we really simplified it in a lot of ways, and in simplifying it, we use it a lot more frequently. The other change we made was when we originally opened, the HIT in the word fitting was what we had as green in our logo. The rest of the logo was gray. And the idea was to, again, really call out high intensity training and try to communicate a bit more of our brand's proposition through the color treatment of the logo. But we found ourselves in so much of our branded communication really highlighting the word fit with the FHIT altogether. So whether we were talking about benefits of the workout or a benefit class for a cause that we were rallying behind, or live fit is our hashtag, commit to be fit. There were so many ways we were using the term fit really all together. So we changed that about our branding as well. So now the whole word fitting is green, with the word room being gray. And then in much of our other branded merchandise and branded communications, you'll see the FHIT as really being called out, which really is what we are, which is functional high intensity training. So again, it does still reinforce the literal communication of what we do here. But I think that the mark itself is much more bold and simplified, and therefore much easier to recognize and easier to use for us and our partners.
Thank you for talking us through that, Kari, because I think it is so important that we understand that a brand, as you talked about, can evolve and can change over time. And you've just taken us through some great adaptations that you've made for the Fitting Room brand. And it's something that I want to encourage everyone to keep in mind, that, changes can occur over time, but you still have consistency running throughout that brand. And you talked about the fact that that green has remained consistent since day one. So I would now like to talk about the association between a brand and a community and our consumers. So in your opinion, Kari, how does a strong brand really build trust within your community and also for your consumers?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is being honest, having your consumers see that you're on their side, showing that you truly care about what they're looking to get out of their interaction with their brand. So from the day we opened the doors, the first day, the first month, in fact, the first several years, it was not about maximizing profit to the bottom line. It was about getting the consumer experience right. And in fact, really early on, we were not initially thinking that we were going to have 2 trainers in every class. And we landed on having 2 trainers in our classes because we realized that we could take much better care of our clients and we could cater to people who were injured or who are pregnant or coming off recovery from a surgery, or maybe somebody who's super fit and wanted to be challenged and pushed harder and further, or somebody else who was really new to fitness and needed a little bit more one-on-one attention. And so, the experience itself, not just the brand mark, has evolved over time. But I think that, really building a relationship with consumers is a two-way street, and understanding what individuals are trying to get out of their experience with your brand, and it's not going to be the same for everyone. And then, really responding to what you're hearing and making sure that, that you're there for your consumers, not just in telling them what they want to hear, but in truly providing them, what they're looking for from a service experience perspective, a product perspective, evolving as they evolve, and constantly just checking in and having that two-way communication. Communication can't be one way. I don't think you can build a great brand with only one-way communication.
I completely agree. Kari, one of the things that really jumped out at me when I was first introduced to the Fhitting Room, and then subsequently as I followed the business on social media, was just how much your coaches not only love the brand but live the brand as well. And that's obvious in their physical representation of the brand, the connection that they have when you're actually doing a class, and then how they actually post themselves about the brand on social media. So I would love to know, what's your process for actually selecting and hiring your coaches within the business?
Yeah, so we do auditions several times a year. Often we are reaching out to others in the community and inviting them into auditions, but there is also an open audition process. But we really, really select carefully people who believe in the product, who train the way we train, who take pride in their craft as trainers, who are highly credentialed. And if they're highly credentialed and have certifications in the modalities of training with which the Fhitting Room uses in our classes, and they take pride in that craft, and they are proud of the product that they're delivering, and it's in fact, consistent with their own philosophy, then they're going to be great representations and communicators of the brand. If we hire somebody to work here because they check, boxes that kind of look good on paper, but they actually train a completely different way, or, maybe they don't really train at all, they're not going to embody the brand, because it's not going to speak to them directly. So when we see our trainers, taking our classes alongside our clients, that's a huge indicator that they are going to really believe in what they're doing. And if they're proud of the product that they're delivering, again, it is something that they are going to be proud to show, whether it's on their social media or, including it in other projects that they're doing as individuals. And it really becomes like a really great symbiotic relationship between brand and trainer.
Kari, I think that one of the challenges that many fitness owners and managers out there face is having an instructor or having a trainer that's part of your business, and ensuring that they actually remain engaged and energized and excited to be part of the business. And you obviously do a fantastic job of doing that. Are there any kind of specific ways or things that you have done with your trainers to ensure that that passion remains consistent whilst they're working for you, whilst they're working for the brand, that energy that they have from day one remains consistent? Is there any sort of things that you have done that you can share with us?
Yeah, sure. So I do a few things. One, when I meet with trainers, I always talk to them about their goals in general, as an individual, not just as a trainer. And sometimes they're one and the same, but sometimes people have, personal goals that are things that they want to accomplish in life outside of just being a trainer. And I always look for opportunities to bring those two things together. For example, it was on one of my trainer's bucket lists to be on national TV. And then I got an opportunity to have a trainer on the Dr. Oz show. And quite frankly, the story that she's talking about talks about gyms. It does not mention the fitting room. It does not talk about boutique fitness. It is not about high intensity interval training. But it was a great opportunity to be able to go to a trainer to check something off of her personal bucket list of being on national TV. And so, that's one example, but, whether it's just looking for ways to support people, as people, some are performers. And so, it's supporting that they might need to take time off for an audition, or somebody else may want to be a contributor to, a piece on a certain topic from an education perspective, supporting people getting ongoing certifications, and with their ongoing education, really becoming a community and a family. So opening the doors, we do every year a barbecue in the summer for the whole team, but also for their families. Same thing at Thanksgiving, and I host those personally. And it's just honestly like fostering an environment of care. So when somebody's in a situation and, they know that they have a support system to lean on, just as a person, not just, as an employee. And I think that's really been tremendously important to me personally, but also, I think that that's really helped build what we have, within our team. The other thing I do is I share feedback really regularly. So clients take time to write, I call them love letters, but, they'll send notes about an amazing class, an amazing program, a moment they had with a trainer, or this person has been amazing getting me through my pregnancy, or whatever it may be. I immediately share those pieces of feedback with anybody on the team who it involves directly, as well as their manager. But oftentimes, I'll take the time we do monthly meetings, and I'll read an excerpt from, a client letter or an email I received to the whole team together, so that everybody hears the information together and people can see, directly the impact that they're having on individuals' lives. And I think, again, it becomes this really nice virtuous cycle where, if you see how you're impacting somebody's life for the better through your career choice, how can you not care about that and feel good about it and energized by it?
I love that initiative, Kari, and I haven't heard of anyone doing that before, of actually, sharing feedback within a team meeting environment. It's something that we can all do quite easily, because we know that that gym consumers love to send in feedback and to leave feedback.
Yeah.
But I really love that idea, and it's kind of like celebrating, as you say, the impact that our trainers are making in people's lives, and celebrating it together with your colleagues. So thank you for sharing that example with us. Now that the Fitting Room has been around for a little while, and you mentioned that earlier on you did go through a couple of brand changes, is there anything in 2019 that you would change about the Fitting Room brand now?
So as far as the brand architecture and the equity that we have built, no. I think that, people who are aware of Fitting Room really do associate the Fitting Room with, high quality training, education. People feel confident they're going to know how to do things correctly. So that is great. Would I increase brand awareness and the reach of our brand overall? Of course. I mean, that's, sort of what I spend my time on all day, every day. And actually the one piece of information that I would love to get out there more broadly would be to the audience of people who are intimidated and think that they need to be in good shape or super fit to come and take a class at Fitting Room. And I would say we are actually the complete opposite, because we make high intensity training extremely safe and accessible for everybody, regardless of their fitness level or age or background. And so, I think the people who know our brand know that, but for those who don't, I think it's an important message.
Member experience is more than just NPS. With MXM's Member Experience Toolkit, you build a unified view of the member experience, from purchase to onboarding to everyday usage and cancellation. Wire your entire organization with actionable feedback using MXN's Member Experience Toolkit. To find out more, go to mxmetrics.com. And now back to Kari, where she's going to share tips on how to build brand presence within a community.
Okay, so I would say number one, know what your brand is and what your brand is not. I think that has to be really clear from day one, and make sure you communicate that to everybody on your team so that you're all on the same page. Number two is being comfortable and being okay with knowing your brand is not going to resonate with everybody. For somebody to love your brand, somebody else is going to dislike your brand. And that's okay, because you can't be everything to everyone. And then the third thing I would say is you have to be uncompromisingly consistent, which means sometimes you are going to say no to something that in the short term might feel like, a good opportunity. But I think you just have to be so true to the brand and what you want it to represent, and be consistent, because consumers have to know what they can count on you for.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the show today. And I'm very certain that the FBP family will be so grateful for you sharing that background and sharing that information so that we can all learn from you today. Thank you so much, Kari.
Thank you for having me.
A mega huge announcement for the Australian fitness industry. If you're confused about technology in the fitness industry, what you need, where to start, how to implement, and if you want to understand how to embrace technology to make your business life easier than ever before, then the Fitness Industry Technology Summit is for you. The very first Fitness Industry Technology Summit is a 2-day summit held on July 25th and 26th, 2019 in Sydney, Australia. You can check out the details at www.fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au. The Fitness Industry Technology Summit will showcase 13 speakers from outside the fitness industry who have experience in digital marketing, data analysis, and using tech to simplify business. You'll hear from successful fitness business operators on how tech has helped them in their business. Just for a moment, imagine what using non-industry technology or tactics from digital experts to build your marketing strategy could actually do for your business. Imagine if every marketing strategy was segmented and targeted for impact. Imagine if your customer experience journey was entirely automated. And imagine if you were saving time by using products that are off the shelf. The hard truth is, if you ignore the tech world, then your members and your prospects will leave you behind. The Fitness Industry Technology Summit is your chance for your business to become more efficient, more profitable, and to drive more engagement. So, one more time, the Fitness Industry Technology Summit is in Sydney, Australia on July 25th and 26th. There are only 150 tickets available. That is not many, my friends. So head to fitnessindustrytechsummit.com.au and grab your tickets today. MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, go to myzone.org.
Precore Quickfire 5.
This week's Precore Quickfire 5 guest is Steve Lesnar. Steve, a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
We start off each of our interviews with a Precore Quickfire 5. So can you tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
Sure. I love to create meaningful connection with people, adding values to their life. And I find that the world of sports and fitness is so rich for that. Not only sports, does so much for people, but it also connects people in such a different way. So that's why I do what I do.
And what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
I'm a very competitive person, so I like to study and learn from the best. Athletes, coworkers, competitors, or players from other industry, there's always something to learn.
And are there any apps or systems that you would use to stay in control of your workload?
Yeah, the one app that changed the way I work is called Notability, and it allows me to organize all my files, notes, presentations seamlessly on all my devices, while also allowing me to remove any paper waste from my life. I literally have not printed any document in the last 3 years.
Oh, that is a great one. I'll look that up and make sure that we pop the link. So Notability, we'll get the link for that for the show notes. And Steve, are there any books or podcasts or blogs that you would recommend to our listeners and why?
The Third Door is a book that I recently read that I've recommended to friends and coworkers because it speaks to the power of resilience. From some of the greatest, minds and business people in the world, but it's written in a really fun way. So The Third Door would be one. I like to run, listening to the daily from the New York Times. I think it's just a great way for me to get up to date while being on my run as well.
Oh, great recommendations. Thank you for those. And give us a brief overview of the topic that we're going to be focusing on during your main interview.
We'll be talking a little bit about how do you leverage data to build long-lasting brands.
This is going to be a fantastic topic. I'm excited to dive into that. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining us today for the Pre-Call Quickfire 5.
My pleasure.
Tribe, if you haven't explored a functional training space for your gym, then now is the time. With Queenex Functional Training by Precore, there is a unit to fit every space. Plus, education is included to ensure that training is delivered with confidence. You need to jump online and check this out right now. Go to precore.com/fitness business podcast.
Thank you for joining me for this week's show. And of course, a reminder that all the resources and links for today's episode can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. I'd like to thank our foundation partner, Active Management. As a listener to the show, you have a special opportunity to work with JT from Active Management. In fact, you can get one free session when you buy one coaching session. No matter where in the world you are, technology allows him to work with you. All you need to do is go to activemgmt.com.au/FBP family and work with JT to get more people moving and moving more often. Once again, that is one free session when you buy one coaching session and it is exclusive to you. Go to activemgmt.com.au/FBP family. As we finish off today's show, I always ask you to remember that what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.